right, so let's pick up here. Section 3, the NAR's Code of Ethics with respect to the buyer's agency. All right, so the National Association of Realtors created this Code of Ethics, and they initially adopted the very first set of Code of Ethics in 1913. Now, does anybody know when the NAR actually formed into existence? All right, and we're not going to go through the whole history, and it has changed names throughout its life, but the inception of the NAR was actually 1908. All right, so what you're seeing is 1908 is when we created this overarching agency. It wasn't called the National Association of Realtors then, but it's when it started. But we didn't actually start ethics till 1913. Maybe that's just my twisted sense of humor, but I see 5 years there before they decided to actually put this code in place. All right, and it was actually created to create trust, integrity, fairness in the real estate dealings, because there were some, let's say, less than honest people doing some less than honest activities. So they created this to protect our reputation as realtors and the client and the general public. So in essence, the structure of the Code of Ethics is comprised into how many articles? Anybody? Well, if you look there on the screen, it is 17 articles. There are currently 17 of these that lay out how you act, let's say. These 17 are divided into 3 categories. You have Articles 1 through 9 that deal with clients and customers, all right? You have Articles 10 through 14 that are specifically geared to protecting the public in general. And then Articles 15, 16, and 17 are designed for us to protect the reputation of ourself, other agents, and me. And of obviously other agents protect me. So 15 through 17 are there to protect us, or from each other maybe, basically. So in that 17 sections, there are a group of what they call standards of practice. The standards of practice are examples, so to speak, of how that article could be applied in a situation. Now, they are not something that you would charge a person with. You don't charge or get charged with a standard of practice. You get charged with a violation of an article. Those SOPs, or standards of practice, are ways that it could be violated. It helps you to understand the depth of that article, all right? So the first 9 articles are addressed to protect the clients and customers. So that's what they're for. They are there to help us understand how we protect the clients through loyalty and fiduciary acts. We are obligated to put their interest in front of ours, provide good faith and competent and diligent service. We are to disclose all material facts about the property that could affect a person's decision making. Now, here's a question that I always internally ask myself. What facts do I know that could influence a person's decision? I find that hard for me to justify. So the easy answer is disclose everything you know, because I don't know what facts would help them make a decision. So what I'm telling you is, don't withhold something by saying, well, that has nothing to do with their decision. I think that is treading on dangerous ground for you. I would rather you say, I disclose all facts that I know. Excuse me. It deals with our professional competency. What services are we qualified to perform? And how we can safeguard the public or the client's information. We are there to protect and safeguard private information, like maybe I'm going to say their financial history, their family dynamics, like our company getting, or a company. Sometimes it feels like a company, right? A married couple getting divorced. That may be something that may be private that you don't disclose. So that does run contrary to disclosing all material facts, right? There is a line between what's private and what should be disclosed. The second group of articles deal with duties to the public. How do we uphold the trust of the public? How do we ensure that the public is treated fairly? We have many non-discriminatory acts. Remember, you cannot discriminate based on the 7 protected classes. Now, those are 7 federal classes: race, color, religion, national origin, sex, familial status, and disability. These align with our Fair Housing Act. If you're sitting in a state listening to this, you may potentially have more than the 7 federal protected classes. For example, Washington State has 10 protected classes. Now, I'm going to preview something further on our list right here because I want to make sure you understand. The Fair Housing Act does not protect sexual orientation or gender identity, correct? It protects sex, dealing with male or female. However, the NAR has adopted this in your professional practice to include sexual orientation and gender identity, all right? So understand that that's not the federal law, fair housing. It is a professional code that we are talking about. You have to make sure that you are truthful in your advertising. Honest, truthful, and free from exaggeration. I would be careful about saying things like, new home built by the #1 builder in the state. That may lead you to some issues if you have to explain what you mean by the #1 home builder at a ethics violation hearing, all right? Hey, it was built by a great builder, a reputable builder, a licensed builder, however you want to say it. The third one is obviously don't practice law. You guys are not attorneys unless you are an attorney. I'm looking out at the crowd. I know most of you. I don't believe we have any practicing attorneys in here. If you are, that's cool. If you are not, be very careful to not practice law. The Indiana Bar Association loves to try and come after the Indiana Realtor Association. All right? So make sure you don't practice law. You cannot write documents. You know, we fill in the blank in documents. We don't write a purchase agreement. I know we say that all the time, but technically we don't, because that would be practicing law. We border on this all the time, I think, when we start writing like contingency clauses. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I have been told by several attorneys and IAR's attorney And this is how the story goes. When writing contingency clauses, you should not try to act like a realtor. I may go back and edit that out, or I might not. Let's back up. I'm sorry. I'm thinking 2 bullet points ahead. You should not try to act like an attorney. Do not write a contingency clause that says the party of the first part does hereby agree that the party of the second part shall in no case. All right. The more you try and act like attorney, the more chance that an attorney is going to go, yeah, he was practicing law. So try and keep it in layman's terms. The buyer said the seller will do this. Just write your contingency clauses like that. All right. Now, we have a whole class on specifically how to write contingency clauses. Make sure that you take that class at some point. It'll give you much better and clearer definitions. So, don't practice law. You also have to have a clear discussion about your representation. You must disclose your status, meaning, are you working as a buyer's agent? Are you working as a listing agent? And you must disclose this status on all advertising, marketing, and promotional material to ensure that you are transparent to the public. You want them to know that you are a licensed agent. You are not allowed to make things, and I say things in finger quotes, like ads or billboards or posts or yard signs look like you're an unlicensed person, all right? Now, there are the last 3, 15, 16, and 17, deal with how you are expected to uphold the respect of our industry and other agents. So you are to avoid disparagement. Do not make false or misleading statements about competitors. Okay? Now, I'm going to disclose something. I have seen many posts where somebody has called somebody out because they, in a moment of heat, in a moment of anger, in a moment of frustration, they have said things on Facebook or Twitter where they're calling someone out. Please do not do this. Do not also try and defend yourself with the statement of, well, it's not false, she is lazy. No, that's not going to work for you. When it says do not make false or misleading statements about competitors, I'm telling you now, don't make any statements about competitors unless they're positive. If you can't make a positive statement about another agent, what was that your mom used to tell you when you were growing up? If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Please uphold the respect to our profession. All right? If you have a trouble with another agent, call the other agent and work it out. Talk to them directly. Do not air your dirty laundry. We do not want the public to get a perception that we are backstabbing, conniving, bitchy people. Because I saw so-and-so post about so-and-so, about how they were doing so-and-so and not doing so-and-so, and that erodes the trust completely with us. So, do not make those statements. I'm also telling you this, I think I mentioned it earlier. In private groups, I would not make this. Private pages on Facebook. Somebody can screenshot that, post it, and now it's public. You should cooperate with the other brokers, unless cooperation's not in your client's interest. There are times if your client said, or if the other agent says, hey, Are you writing this low offer because you know we hit the lottery, or I know you hit the lottery? You may say, hey, I can't cooperate with that because that would actually be detrimental by telling you that about my client's financial wherewithal, all right? So make sure that you don't do that. There are dispute resolutions. You must arbitrate disputes with other realtors. Now, I'm here to tell you once again, I don't believe that there's going to be a lot of arbitration disputes due to the way that buyer's agents now get paid from their client. You know, we used to argue with the procuring cause, and the listing agent would pay one agent, and the other buyer's agent would say, hey, that was my money. Now, the buyers under law are supposed to have an agency agreement with that buyer. So if that buyer uses another agent and buys, hey, they're still under contract. That buyer may owe you money coming from the buyer. Not a lot of arbitration because now it's not coming from the listing agent. So you are not going to file an arbitration agreement with the listing agent. So I think that you're going to see a lot less of true arbitration disputes because of some of these new rules. Now, when it comes to enforcing the code of ethics, the code of ethics are enforced by your local board, which is the downstream version of your state board and then obviously the NAR. If you decide you want to be on one of those committees, of which I am on the professional standards committee, you must make application, be accepted, and then you take other training to help you understand the code of ethics a little better, how they are applied, and we get to practice on practice cases that are scenarios set up so that we can go through and go, hey, there was no violation here, or there was a violation. So if that's something you're interested in, see your local board and talk to them. Typically, I think you have to sit on the grievance committee first before you can quote unquote elevate to the professional standards committee. I sat on the grievance committee for 3 years, and this will be my 3rd year on the professional standards committee. All right. The NAR actually changes. It evolves. It is a living document. So it undergoes revisions all of the time to, to appreciate, to recognize that there could be changes in legal structure. There could be changes in the society's values. There could be technological changes that require some alterations. So these undergo all kinds of changes. And right here, like I said earlier, they now include sexual orientation and gender identity. That's what I told you back up earlier. There have been some changes to reflect social media and digital marketing about, making sure your broker's names are on things like that. So the code of ethics will change, and that is why you guys are required to have code of ethics education specifically every 3 years from the NAR. They want to make sure that when there is a change, you guys are aware of this. I know a lot of you think all the time, I got to take this code of ethics training. Well, it's there to make sure you understand, hey, there's been a change. And we're going to talk about some of those changes.